Ait says those that saw Rav Meir from the front, they're bigger. Rabbi said, I saw Rav Meir from the front. But I'm not Rav Meir. So he said, there's no problem in sitting over there. Right? There's no problem. And what about the mic? The mic works too. Where's Rabbi Drazen? Very good. You guys see me? Schwab, you see me or no? You see me? Every day, can you see me now? And how's the air conditioning? Kallus, you see me or no? Okay. Oh, God bless you all. God bless you all. Oh, this is a nice one. Who bought this? It's very good. Where is he? Who bought it? Okay, I'm ready. Oh, one more thing. It's not easy walking around with all these things. Okay, Rabbi say. So it's a Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah because they're putting in the air conditioning, and then it's Hashem. We won't have to suffer anymore. So it's really a big simcha. Start recording. Okay, I think she started. Now let's go back. Okay, it's really a big simcha, Rabbi said, because it's very hot. So it's mamish Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah. It's not so bad in here, anyways. Not such a Yerida. Not such a Yerida. So let's bless Hashem. And not only that, you can't see because you guys are behind the plastic. They could see though. What's on my tie? What's on my tie? You mamish can't see, no? It's knots. Knots. The plan was to start today in Mitzvah Hashem kosher, right? And we have like 1 or 2 points in Mitzvah Shabbos, and then Mitzvah Hashem will be able to start kosher. It's a big simcha. A guy might would have wanted to start kosher in our base medrash. That's where we have our siyata d'shmaya. But Kanira b'kol makom, wherever you go, that's where you have the siyata d'shmaya. So Bez Hashem, let's see what happens. Now, before I get to Chashmal, there are 2 more klalim that I didn't mention. One of the klalim is Yeridea klal. Mishabura brings it over here. Everybody hears me? I can't hear myself. It's good? Right. One of the signs of Corona is not that you can't hear, right? My ears are popped over here, so I don't hear. Everyone hears me, right? Okay. I was thinking you hear me or no? Not so good? Oh, no. They have masks. So there's a Yeridea Dika Klal, which I'm not going to be Marich on. The Mishabura is Marich here. I'm just going to say the 4 rules that come out. Forever learn the Sugya. You'll for sure appreciate it. It's just a Sikum. The Mishabura talks about here complicated cases of where the Ma'aseh Shabbos got mixed. And when the Ma'aseh Shabbos gets mixed, what's the din now? It's based on the rules we spoke about already, the rules of Davish Yesh Matirim. And the concept of Davish Yesh Matirim says that if you can have it ba'ifin heter, so then why have it even with the taroivis ba'ifin shel a heter? Why do you have to come onto the heter of a taroivis, of a mixture, when you can have it without any shilas? That's the klal of Davish Yesh Matirim. So it comes out that let's say a person has a Ma'aseh Shabbos on Shabbos. For example, somebody did a Ma'aseh b'shoigig. But shoigig, that's the hikab sak, is not like a mayor. Is that we're machmer on shoigig, bain for him, bain for others. So he has some, one of the eggs in the egg salad was shelled and made be'eser. The other ones were already made, but the person, the other ones, let's say last night the person made the egg salad. And then, they decided to make today a lot more right before the meal. So there's 1 egg in there, which let's say is batel. Let's just say. So now it's a taroivis, and taroivis is bittel, and there's bittel, and everything is good, right? But the only thing is, says the Mishabura, no, because it's a davar sheish lamatirim. Why should we come onto the heter, a bittel, when Motzei Shabbos you could eat this food without any questions at all? So that is a simple case of a davar sheish matirim, and that's the only. That we'll see. There's 2 cases. That case is simple. There's no machlekes in that case. And in that case, we tell you wait till Motzei Shabbos. That's case number 1. Case number 2 is the Mishabura brings down. Excuse me. Mishabura brings down. I'm going to the extreme easy cases. Case number 2 is let's say something gets mixed on Motzei Shabbos. The fellow did the Ma'aseh b'mezid, and it's taka aser on Motzei Shabbos. Let's say for him, Motzei Shabbos it's not more aser for him. The only person can be aser for him. And on Motzei Shabbos it gets mixed. So on Motzei Shabbos it's not a davar sheish lematirim, because on Motzei Shabbos whoever it's mutter for, it's mutter. Whoever it's aser for, it's aser. That's Motzei Shabbos. Mazid, there's no klal of David Sheish Lamatirin because there's no Matthias of David Sheish Lamatirin. Those are the two extreme cases. The middle cases are all these fights you see in the Mishnah Berurah and the Magen Avraham. I'll just say what they are. The halacha. Mishnah Berurah talks about a case. What happens on Shabbos? You have a Ma'aseh Shabbos, which was done b'mezid, and now it gets mixed. So now, one case the chayr seemingly should be pashut. Ma'aseh Shabbos b'mezid gets mixed, and you are the other person. You're not the avaryan. You're the acherim. Says the Mishnah Berurah. So for you, it's a regular case of a davar sheish lamatir. For you on Shabbos, it's forbidden. On Motzei Shabbos, it's going to be mutter. So wait till Motzei Shabbos. That's the easy case. Even that case is a shtickle machlekes, but that's the halacha. The one case which is very, very complicated and very big machlekes is the case of where you're the avaryan and you made this exile b'mezid or whatever. Now, Motzei Shabbos, what's going to be? You're going to wait till Motzei Shabbos. So for you, it makes a lot of sense to wait till Motzei Shabbos, right? I'm sorry, for you, the avaryan, it doesn't make any sense to wait for Motzei Shabbos because for you, it's going to be asal olam. But there's another person here, the acherim, that for him it's going to be mutter. So the Mishnah Berurah brings a big machlekes in this. Do we say that since for somebody else there's going to be a heter, so that's mashpi on me, which is very difficult to understand. Pshutai, me, it's going to be asr for the olam, and I'm the one that wants to come and eat it now. What's the svara to say that no, even I should have to wait? It can't be such a thing that in a taroivis, it's very difficult. The acherim say you can't be mechalik. If this thing is asr, then the thing is asr. If the thing is not asr, it's not. Others say what shaychus over here. The whole Ma'aseh Shabbos is for some person it's asr, and for another person it's mutter. So I'm not going to go into it, but that's the klal. The Mishnah Berurah brings the machlekes. Sorry. Anyways, if there's a derech for mayor, yeah. Anyways. That's a very interesting addition. Rabbi Rosenberg says, Fishy says, what do you mean? So there is an aspect of a davar sheish lamatir because we saw that maybe not shay. In other words, I'm talking about mazid lefi Reb Meir. Yeah, there's a tzad that mazid lefi Reb Meir is mutter Motzei Shabbos. So maybe that's an additional davar sheish lamatir over here. Yishlad. These are all svaras. I don't want to go into it. Number one. Number two is yesterday I spoke about cases about things that was lein nishtana chayfetz. Now we start the hikar harayt over here. I talked about cases about lein nishtana chayfetz, and we spoke about how the Rabbi Yaina brings down that maybe there's no Ma'aseh Shabbos on something that all you did was a Ma'aseh of Haitzah, because lein nishtana chayfetz, so maybe there's no knas. You should know that there's a whole other sugya which it's not our sugya. Come move on, sugya in Tchumen. I know the oilam is some of them are learning Daf Yomi, and you're about to get into the big sugyas. Tchumen, very difficult sugyas. Over there, you're going to see that in Siman Tafei, Sif Taz, over there, the loch is that in chutz from what we spoke about, maybe there's an isser of Ma'aseh Shabbos. There's a whole separate isser. If you leave the tchum, it's a whole separate issue. There's a whole different issue. If you leave the tchum, that's a whole different shmooze. It could be that if the payers left the tchum, or let's say the item that was brought from Hitzah, so even if Mitzad Hitzah will be able to be makel, but if Al Yudei the Hitzah was also leaving the tchum, that's a different shmooze. We ask for something that left the tchum, and then there's all the rules. If you're within Dalet Amis, if there's an Erev in the city, I ain't sham. I just don't want it to come out of Michshol. That a person's going to think, well, Hitzah's a tziref. Just keep in mind, there's a whole separate sugya which has nothing to do with our sugya, and that's the sugya of tchumen. That's number two. Number three is if I had to make a list of differences, we'll make sikums today. We're finishing for sure because I have the tie on, as Hashem. But if I had to make lists of the differences between hanos akum, which is aser, what Chazal aser hana from a goy, and the iser, what Chazal aser hana from Yisrael. No, let's make the differences. No, let me hear. What? Okay, first ikar difference is kadesh yasu. That's my first in halacha. That by Yisrael, that does something be'isr, it's not aser kadesh yasu. So that does something be'isr, it's not kadesh yasu. By a goy, that's my first in halacha, and Siman Chav Hei, that there is an isr of kadesh yasu, sif yod, shin chav hei sif yod. That's number one. What's another difference? Was? No, but I'm talking about hana. With hana, that's interesting. That's also, I wasn't one on my list. Take another one will be, let's say the guy, no, but you still might not be allowed to get hana. That's totally in the Mishnah Berurah and Simon and Bays and Sif Dal. That's a complicated case. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that case. Another case is Taisefes hana. Do we have a heter of Taisefes hana when it comes to Ma'aseh Shabbos? By Goyim, we certainly have a heter of Taisefes hana. By Yisrael, there's a very big fight. right? The very big fight. Halacha Maisa, there's definitely a makom to be mako because it's a huge fight. But Ramosha was machmir. I mean, Shem Zalman was machmir. It's not poshit. But that's another difference. A third difference might be mitzvahs lav lahenes nitnu. Maybe. That's also machlekes, but it's certainly in Amir La'akom, we certainly said, yes, there is a heter mitzvahs lav that's in Hanos Yisrael. It's a very big shaila. No, what else do we have? Remembers? Sorry? If the goy does it for himself, so then that hana, it's not hana for you, and then you're allowed to partake in it. The guy turns on the light for himself. The Yisrael that turns on the light for himself, he didn't make it better, he made it worse, if anything. Another thing is this entire Rabbeinu Yoina does not exist by Hanas Akum. Here's the other direction. By Hanas Akum, there's no heter of when a guy brings a package because there's lo nishtana chayfetz. That's a very important thing that we never spoke out. It's only by Hanas Yisrael that we find such a Rabbeinu Yoina because there the Isra of the Knas was the Aser Chefza. By Anos Goyim, the cloud was never to Aser Chefza or not Chefza. There was make sure you're not going to do something that you're going to go and ask the Goy. So there, that's clear. That's Mefurish in Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Shin Chafei, in Sif Ches, it's Mefurish. That there's no Rabbeinu Yoina, that heter, that lo nishtana chayfetz when it comes to Anos Goy. That's a very important cloud. Another one. Sorry? Maybe. That's very good. Ben Hashmashis, there's going to be a Teirim Taka by Goyim, which you certainly don't have by Yisrael. Sorry? It's is complicated. It's what's the case? I mean, if the Yid does something which is Psik Reisha, we're going to ask her. Yeah, and by Goy, we have a heter of Psik Reisha. It's okay. Not bad. What? Safek Pluks are very complicated because Safek Pluks, there is a concept of a heter by Amir Lakim also. We say that the Amir Lakim is more kula. There's a rate on this in Amir Lakim. There's such a kula. There's another one which we didn't discuss, which is Ein Matrichin Lotzes Mibeisoi. When it comes to Amir Lakim, if the guy turns on the light in the room, so there's a cloud that Ein Matrichin Lotzes Mibeisoi. We don't make a person leave his room. You know, if he asks for it, it's a different story. But if you're sitting there and all of a sudden the guy comes and turns on the light and turns on the air conditioning, we don't say that you have to leave the room. Ein Matrichin Lotzes Mibeisoi. By Israel, just a moment. By Israel, it's not pashit. I looked around in Ramosha in Kufchav Gimel. He has a tshuva about this. Whether or not we say ein matrichin latzis mibeisa, if Yisrael comes and turns on the light in your house, he comes Khalil, not your house. There you are. Sometimes it's in a hotel or whatever, and the Yid comes and he turns on the light. So do we say ein matrichin latzis mibeisa? Yeah, it tells a bad example. It's complicated. If we say, hey, your house is a non-religious Jew, he comes and he turns it on. Do we say ein matrichin latzis mibeisa? Now, don't forget, ein matrichin latzis mibeisa does not mean that he's allowed to do things with that light that he was not able to do before. So he's not allowed to read with that light even by the Mir Akum case. He's just allowed to stay there. He doesn't have to actually leave the room. So that'll be a case. We say, so by Israel, it's interesting. Ramosha Shita say he does not compare the two. He dons the whole Shiloh. Do we say Matrichin by Israel? But he's not willing to say, if he found it over there, so then it's the same thing over here. Because Ramosha Shita says it's two separate sugyas. One is a din kodesh, it's a different sugya. Would you say Matrichin noisay lotzes mibesa? If you're getting hana from Orla, you're getting hana from Hektish. You wouldn't say that. So Moshe dance with the Shiloh. My point is that you can't compare it. What? What does he say? He's Mekel. Moshe B'Sefer the Tshuva does sound like he's willing to be Mekel, but he has no comparison to Amir Lakim. He doesn't even bring the sugya of Amir Lakim, of Anos Akum. I wrote on my paper here another one. I can't figure out what I meant here. Maybe you'll help me. I wrote here, no kavana. What do I mean? What do I mean? What? Just one moment. What do I mean by no kavana? Not mis'ala. Guy does it without kavana. Don't know what I meant. No, sorry. No Rabbeinu Yoina. Sorry. What are you saying? So you want to say maybe that's Ein Matrichin? It won't be Ein Matrichin because over there, the cloud that we were trying to figure out, just like if a person's sitting in the house, he's not allowed to read by the light if he wasn't able to before, because that might be called positively using the light. It's true, you don't have to leave, but who says you're allowed to get no? Right? I'm. Somebody else asked me this yesterday. Who asked me this yesterday? Who asked me this about Ein Matrichin yesterday? Nobody? What? It was you, Rabbi Blunt? So I after he asked me about it, I'm a little bit misupik that what I just said is not so true. I'm not sure. Balon wanted to say that's the answer with Rabbi Yashiv at Gemei. Rabbi Yashiv meant, Rabbi Yashiv doesn't say that God in the Or Shabbos. I got it, looked it up last night. What did Rabbi Yashiv say? To me, I just had it written down that he said it's mutter. Okay? But there in More Shabbos, he elaborates a bit more. And that Rabbi Yashiv said you could walk up the stairs even if the light is on. Rabbi Yashiv said, what Rabbi Yashiv means. Does Rabbi Yashiv mean you're allowed to walk up the stairs when he turns on the light? Does he mean he's chaylik on that, those on Rav Moshe, and he holds it's called Tosefes Hana, and Tosefes Hana is being makel on? Maybe that's what Rabbi Yashiv means. But I don't know. It sounded like from Rabbi Yashiv, like I don't know if you can medayik the way it's written from Baal Peh and whatever. But the way he writes it over there is Tosefes Hana. It's not Hanoya. It's not Hana b'chlal. It's much more like something that the Titzah is something that I'm getting. Later, I don't know. I'm not sure. Rabbi Balon wanted to say, and I see Rabbi Shvalbi, they want to say, and maybe a different mouth. Maybe the pshat is together of ein matrichin. If I'm going to be able to walk up the stairs anyways, and I'm going to allow to walk up the stairs anyways, so then we're not going to say, now that he turned on the light, you're going to answer the stairwell. It could be. It could be. And then it would make a lot of sense that I told you that maybe Rabbi Yashiv mattered even in the case of running up the stairs. Okay, matrichin. We're not going to now be mechalik because you can't answer my stairwell. Okay, the thing is a chiddush. The whole idea is a chiddush, but that's l'chayr. Ad kan is the dvar l'chayr. Sorry. Excuse me. Shay. Yeah, nechanam. No, that in chanam. That there's no difference by goyim, shoygig, and mezid. That's true also. Yeah. We didn't talk about over here, so that's a bit more. First of all, there is Shem Yarbitz, but yeah. Okay, Akapanim. That's part 3. Part 4 is there's an incredible bir halacha here. Incredible bir halacha, which I didn't mention. Now I realize that this bir halacha is something you certainly have to mention. You certainly have to talk about. The bir halacha over here, in that same bir halacha where he talks about Rabbeinu Yeina, about not changing the chayfetz, he talks about planting on Shabbos. And he brings a Gemara in Gittin, on Daf Nun Gimel, that the Gemara says that there's a whole new rule when it comes to Natei on Shabbos. When a person plants on Shabbos, there's a whole new set of rules. What's this? So he brings the Gemara in Gittin says that if you plant on Shabbos, the Motzei Shabbos, the Gemara brings Machlekes Reb Meir Yehuda, Motzei Shabbos, you have to uproot what you planted. Bein b'shayik, bein b'mezid. Mazeh ve'amazeh. What's this all about? It's broke all the rules. If you plant on Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, bein b'shayik, bein b'mezid, according to Reb Yehuda, you have to uproot what you did. Mazeh ve'amazeh. When did we ever see this? Shaygig Reb Yehuda was makel on Motzei Shabbos. What is this? And where did we ever see anything about uprooting? Mazeh ve'amazeh. What is this? What? Interesting. You're saying that stamza you have to do it in order to make it that I'm afraid you weren't over. Maybe anyways. So I'll tell you what the kash is. Come again? So let me tell you what the Bir Halacha says. You're all saying on the right track. You're all saying on the right track. Comes to the game, the Bir Halacha, and he discusses what is this thing. He says, we didn't find this by any of the Ma'aseh Shabbos. So he says, not like you, Rabbi Isai. Listen what he says. He says, you know what the answer is? The answer is, it's different because the knas, it's mashma in the Gemara, it's knas. That's why it's not mashma itself. It's mashma knas. He says, knas has to be nicker. What's the whole idea? The whole idea of a knas is that you have to make sure that the person's going to have a deterrent to do it again. So what happens? This fellow comes, he plants a ganze garden on Shabbos. You tell him, okay, you know what? Motzei Shabbos, let's say he wants to know for Acherim, let's say, whatever. So Motzei Shabbos, we say others are going to be able to use, let's say Shoygig. Well, the Ekakash is in Shoygig. He accidentally planted on Shabbos. So what do we do on Shabbos? We make a Gzera Shoygig got to amazing. So what are we going to do? We tell him, okay, Motzei Shabbos, you're allowed to use it, but not on Shabbos. Tells you Shkoyach. I wasn't going to use it anyways on Shabbos. It's not nicker the knas. There's no necker, there's no hecker of the knas bichlal. So he beside, it's have to be halacha when it's not nicker a knas. So we have to make it nicker. So what we're going to do? Uproot the netiyah. Ad kan to be halacha. I can't be halacha. I looked around and I saw in the Mishnayos, that's where the sugya is really coming from. In the Mishnayos, in Trumas, in Parak Beis, halacha Gimel. So on the page, there's a bunch of different Rishayim. Excuse me. They say different pshatim than the Bir Halacha on this kasha. I mean, the Taisis Yantif, Hitaka says that he says any malacha that you can uproot, you have to uproot. Where's the makor? Here. That's just a big. Obviously, the Bir Halacha didn't want to say this because Lashamanu really I prove you that it's not true. I'd say that the Bir Halacha told us stand in front of the door and you're allowed to stand there till Motzei Shabbos. And the Bir Halacha never told us that you have to uproot the ma'aseh that you did. The Beer Lacha is not like that. It's very interesting. Sorry? Because you're uprooting it. If you get away from the door, the deer is going to run out flying. Sorry? That's called uprooting. That's uprooting the Maisa. Of course it is. You're undoing anything the Taitzis Yantiv says. The Taitzis Yantiv says anything that you could undo, you're to undo. Bayer. When do we ever hear such a thing that after you separate the bad from the good, you have to put it back? The Beer Lacha clearly didn't want to say this mahalach. Then on the page I saw over there's the Mishnah Rishayim. He says that they only made a knas when it was something which is like a chad pani. You wanted to have your schnitzel and eat it. You're not going to have your schnitzel and eat it. Okay? Now you wanted it on Shabbos, so we'll let you have it on Motzei Shabbos. That's like kilu the knas. You wanted to have it on Shabbos. We're going to make you have it on Motzei Shabbos. See that? Give me kashas on this. Any kashas? But anything, I'm sorry, let me explain. Mashenkein, something that is not a chad pami usage, is not a one-time usage, something that's over and over again. So then, no way. Then you got to get rid of this item. Because the whole entire knas, it's kein the mishabur, but not really like the mishabur. It's the whole idea is that the knas for you is that you cook the schnitzel. If you cook the schnitzel, when did you want the schnitzel? Obviously, you wanted it today. So my man would tell you can't have it today. You have it tomorrow. Okay, so at least we got you, right? Mashenkein, when it comes to by Natia, so what are we going to do? We're going to tell you, you can't have it today. You can have it tomorrow. So then I'm going to wind up having it every day. So on such a thing, they told you have to be oiker. You're going to wind up having it. It's a type of a thing that you're getting. Anyways, no one does it for a one-time usage. They do it for 100-time usages. So what? So you're going to only have 100 usages and not 90. You're going to only have 100, not 100. No such. I said, what's fair on that? If you say it like that, I think Roiv Malachis, you're going to have to be oiker. I mean, you sew a garment on Shabbos. You build a house on Shabbos, right? You're going to have to go and knock it down, right? Because a house is not a one-time usage. I mean, you sew a garment. It's a one-time usage. You have to be oiker. You have to rip it out thread by thread. It's like Shemanu. Shemanu obviously didn't want to learn like this because of that. So what's the mahalach taka the Be'alach's mahalach? Boss? But he's not saying that. He doesn't say because you're going to get different payers. He says the pshat is because it's not something you're going to get just one hana from. You're going to get tons of hana. The tree, it's not talking over there about a tree of pears. It's talking about any tree. It's talking about shade. So the shade you're going to have anyways for, sorry? I can't hear, sorry? You can't do tshuva? Everybody can do tshuva. I'm not here. Yeah. What? At the Kallus Hashavim means the. Made of what? You mean, okay, that's fine. So maybe we might have it, Kallus Hashavim, but even Claudia, we can actually, because Leishamanu in the Ganze Motzei Shabbos, that you have to start undoing, Rabbi said, to feed this, you got to undo the train tracks and you got to undo, all these things are, so I don't know. Wait, slow. Why not? Of course you can undo everything. Just demolish it. Why not? Okay, so maybe Rishas not. I don't know, but most of the Motzei Shabbos is, right? So it's kind of interesting. I realized I have a very big kasha on the Be'er Lacha. Once I asked that question with the train tracks, I realized, wait a minute, we have a very big kasha on the Be'er Lacha. The Be'er Lacha is teretz that for sure we go with. That's the Be'er Lacha. So what did the Be'er Lacha tell us? He told us anytime the knas is nicker, then it's okay. If the knas is not nicker, we have to make sure you're going to remember this. So when it comes to Zareya, it's not going to be nicker because Motzei Shabbos, you're not losing anything. So therefore we make you oiker. We make you take it out. That's the Be'er Lacha says. No, say let's talk a few cases here. So what happens? I build a train on Shabbos. So now we know there's all these rules. Okay, it was built by Goyim, so it's a different set of rules, Shiasus and whatever. Let's say the Jewish aspect of the building of the train. So now it's Motzei Shabbos. So we know Motzei Shabbos lacherim. Motzei Shabbos lacherim. We saw the Ksav Sofer. Okay, so I told you that's a Pashat Ksav Sofer. Maybe they have a din of a mummer, Tina Shenishbas and whatever. Kitzur, wasn't so schwer. But now there's a whole new factor you have to put in when discussing the train, at least the chalakim that were built by the Jews. I mean, every time you have a train, is it nicker the knas? That Motzei Shabbos, you can't use the train. Shkoyach, I couldn't use the train anyways. That means every track that was built over Shabbos, you're not allowed to use that track on Motzei Shabbos. On Shabbos. You got to wait till Motzei Shabbos, right? Lacherim, whatever. So you have to wait till Motzei Shabbos. It's not going to be nicker because the train's not ready yet. That's a kasha on the beer halacha. Why? It's a kasha. I'm saying maybe it's true. Is it true? It's a little bit. The Mishabura brings it by Nateya. He doesn't bring it by Boini. He doesn't bring it by other things. Why don't we find that by other things that? And I saw this kasha in the Sefer Orchos Shabbos. He says, "What? You're going to come out to Peldik and Maisa? You're going to have to." He's right. Yes, it's a Pella. The Mishabura brings it down by Nateya. He doesn't bring it by Boina. He doesn't bring half the cases of Boina. You're not finished building the house. I mean, they were supposed to be finished building the air conditioning by 3 o'clock. What time is it now? What time is it now? 4:20. 4:20. So it was like that's how it goes. You think it's so? What are you gaining by the knas? How's the knas going to be nicker? Well, the schnitzel's gewaldig. Of course it's nicker. We tell you the whole Shabbos you can't eat the schnitzel. So it's nicker. You can't eat the schnitzel. Motzei Shabbos, eat the schnitzel. Of course it's nicker. So, but then I saw another shayla. Rav Shlomo Zalman, he asked a shayla like this. Rav Nissen also asked the kasha. He asked the kasha. Rav Nissen asked it very strong. Rav Nissen says, if you start cooking water on Motzei, it could be that's what you were about to ask. If you start cooking water Shabbos afternoon at 7:30, I don't know what, no, 7:30, it's getting earlier, right? 7 o'clock, you go and you cook up the water right before Shkia. Okay, and when's the water going to be ready? When's the water going to be hot? The water's going to be ready, mamish piping hot, so you can have mayim b'motzei Shabbos maligma. You can have hot water, motzei Shabbos, heiser Wasser. No, I said, you can't use this water on Shabbos, we tell you. Okay, you're not using this water on Shabbos. Let's say you're shoygig or whatever, Rabbi Yehuda, whatever. So you can only use it motzei Shabbos. Well, in what way is it nicker the knas? In what way is it nicker the knas? I mean, it wasn't ready anyways until motzei Shabbos. There was no care of the knas bichlal. So I think from these two shilas, you see from here, you saw it. Does anybody want to say what you said? What? Oh, so Rabbi Nissim says, he says, it's not just a lumdis. The pshat is that we're talking specifically, there are certain types of malachas, it's inherent in the malacha. There are certain types of malachas that it can never be nicker a knas in that malacha. And then there are certain malachas that of course it can be nicker knas, it's just totally in the circumstance. So when it's inherently such a type of malacha, like nateya, that is a malacha. It can never be nicker the knas ever in the million years. It's impossible. So that type of a product, that type of malacha, they made a knas. That's the knas. Get rid of it so that it'll be nicker. Mashenkin, when it comes to things like our cases, avada bishul in general is a malacha where the knas is nicker. Avada boine, the knas is nicker. Just the circumstance that you did makes it not nicker. So the guy govna avada, it gets the regular rules. That's what you see. That's what you see, and that's a chayra. It's very important nekuda, very important nekuda. And the fee this, it'll come out. You don't have to break down the train. Right? It'll come out. Don't worry, the train breaks down on its own. But it'll come out that you don't have to go and break down the train, because the ma'isa is kumtachais. Boina is a type of malacha. Okay, so now you get involved. We spoke about it by Mir La'akum. We spoke how the chalakim of Kadesh Yasu with the goyim. We spoke about how the Jews are anyways not the ones putting on the tracks. I mean, like I say, the Jews, they don't get their hands dirty. Certainly not with that stuff. So Mamela, it's the goyim that are building the actual tracks. So Mamela becomes a much more chamer to Keshayla. Because Amir La'akum is much more chamer to Keshayla, because maybe it's Aser La'olam, Mishabura says you could be Mekel, that's a whole Arichas, which we spoke about by Arichas, and we were Mekel after Kadesh Yasu for Tishas Tzarech, and at this point, it's already in the lifetime of the train, it's already after Kadesh Yasu, and therefore it's mutter bin Makom Tzarech, is it Chil Hashem to use it or whatever, it's sometimes a little bit hard to fight City Hall. I'm not saying, if you can't beat them, join them, but it's a little bit hard. The Maisa, Nachal, there's going to be so many from people using the train. Who says you using it makes all that nafkamina? That's a shkafa question, which is obviously for bigger people than myself. That's a chayra. That's a chayra. A few more cases. Ramosha discusses a case. I just want to tell you the marmokim from yesterday. There are a few marmokainis I didn't tell you. One is Rabbi Singer. Rabbi Vaj is in Vav Lamed Daled. Vav Lamed Daled. We lost Rabbi Moyo. Lost. That's Vav Lamed Daled is Yabi Omer, number one. Number two is Ramosha has a tshuva. I told you this tshuva is just classic Ramosha klap by our entire sugya. Ramosha is talking about you're allowed to use sidurim that were made on Shabbos. If the siddur was made on Shabbos, so it's mamish made from Chilul Shabbos, and it's that's Ramosha's dining over there. You're allowed to use a siddur that was made on Shabbos. So Ramosha, the whole tshuva is very interesting. Ramosha comes up with the naya. You saw the whole tshuva. You read the tshuva. He got a whole naya mahalach over here, right? Does he get involved in Ma'aseh Shabbos? He's like, what? They're also talking Yisrael, no? He doesn't mention Yisrael? So he mentions Yisrael. He definitely doesn't get involved in Ma'aseh Shabbos. No, he's talking about Israel also. See? And he doesn't get involved in Ma'aseh Shabbos. And we saw as far as of mitzvahs love the endless nitnu. Maybe Rabbi will tell you because mitzvahs love the endless nitnu, right? It's not called Shima, Shana, whatever. But he goes into a whole new parsha. You see, Rabbi did not like Chilul Shabbos. Mamish didn't like Chilul Shabbos. So he says, you can't daven out of the siddur because you daven out of the siddur, your tefillahs won't be niskabel. Tefillah teyeva, Rabbi says it's you're not yotze davening because it's tefillah teyeva. The words are what I'm saying, and that's the tefillah, and this is just echatimtza. Just you see, Rav Moshe is unbelievable. Again, Rav Moshe put some kahat. Was? It sounded like from the two of the ways in over there is that you can. I don't know. Today in the world we live in, it's the assumption is the ones that are oisik in hatfasas svarim are the front people. Right, and no, that's the mitzvah. So if you're buying from the publishers that are not, right? So she's davening by the kaisel right now on the men's side. You know, I'm not talking about those chevra. You know, I'm talking about the normal chevra today. In the time of Moshe, it was a very normal thing. He daf machan parnasa, even if he's not religious. Right? So that's the what? I mean by Yisrael. If you're Moshe, it's probably the same too. I don't know. It's not can't have voices parkas vav. Stomach. What? The pages. No, it's interesting. Come again? Sorry? You're not yotze learning. What does it say? It's about Avera. Because tefillah toyeva, that you don't find learning toyeva. Understand? He says here, he says, Hinei b'sidur tefillah nitfesu Shabbos yantiv. Could you push it? If Ramosha brings a raya from a Gemara, no, I'm sorry, you could argue maybe, right? If Kol HaTorah Kula just said Pashit, that means that if you don't agree with this, you don't exist. Or you're a goy. You understand? He Pashit. What's Pashit by the person that knew Kol HaTorah Kula? Pashit. He said Pashit, then he's daiti, Shkeven Shenase Bem Avera, Chamur Kazoi Dechil Shabbos, the Af Benase De Payali Nachem. He's talking about both guys. So he says Pashit. Farasi, Koifer Brias Oilam, Chil Shem Shamayim, Hey Mois Ledvar Mitzvah, Kol Shekain Letfila, Shezvichim Shechem Yisbarach, Yishma Yikabel Letfilas, and Mamela, you need Sanagoyrim, you need help, you need lawyers. Eichis Palala, Chas Vishalim, Lo Yaniach, Yizkabel, your Tefillah won't be answered. And then he wants to say, Yeshmakam Lo Yimad the Gambidi Evela Yasa Tefillah. And then he goes on to say, because we find the concept of davening in front of Tzaya, he says, this Tzaya smells much worse. This Tzaya smells gefährlich. It's a category like this kabbalah tefillah. So he's talking here about tefillah specifically, and then he goes on. At the end, he says, you don't have the reason of tefillah. Rabbi Spire's question. When you learn Torah at the Dav Zayin Taka on a kitrig. When you learn Torah, it also has to be without kitrugin. That's what he says. The guy says, why? Sherry, how could you learn if you have no siyata d'shmaya? Okay? And maybe your birchas HaTorah is a bracha l'batal. You're going to go and learn, and you have no siyata d'shmaya. What chance do you have if you're not going to have siyata d'shmaya? What chance do you have? Who can understand Shas? How can you understand Shas if you don't have siyata d'shmaya? So b'meila, you need siyata d'shmaya. Kashatik the l'spalo. That's why we say avarabba. Chaim v'day yish l'kol dam lizoyer v'svarim sheish l'chot b'shavs b'eser. Adkan. Okay, you see at the end by the limud Torah, he says yesh l'eser, but it's interesting. It doesn't seem to have a strong core of the iser. Just you need siyata d'shmaya. I guess learning without siyata d'shmaya is an avera. It's interesting. Only Moshe came up with the new iser. Learning without siyata d'shmaya is an avera. Unbelievable, no? Have a fella. And I saw. Okay, now let's. We have to do kosher. Did we forget anything else? Forgot anything else? Yeah, that's right. We forgot one thing about the chashmal. If you, let's say somebody heated up water on Shabbos b'Yisr, let's say somebody went and he cooked up water b'Yisr, and then the water cooled down, and now the water's cold. Could you drink that water? Sometimes people like to drink that water because all the bacteria was murdered and everything. Did I drink that water? So the Orchos Shabbos in Chav Zayin, he says no. No, I'm not talking about a mitzvah. I'm talking.
Got rid of that.
What?
Got rid of that.
No. So the question is, the Orchos Shabbos in Chav Zayin, he says it's aser. He says, why is it aser? He says we find taka by Rishon and Gimel. That was our thing. We found by Rishon and Gimel that if you had water that was heated up iser, they goy. in Reish and Gimel. That's what it's talking about there. If you have water heated up by a guy, and the knas was on the chayfetz, so much so that even when it cools down, that chayfetz Chazal said is aser. So who cares that it cooled down? They said that thing is aser. So the Orchos Shabbos says it's the same thing by Nos Yisrael. So Shlomo Zalman, he says not like this. He says no, when the water cools down, it's mutter. Sorry? Come again? I can't hear. You say there, but the Chazal asked this chayfetz. Listen, he has a raya from Amir La'akum. He says, Mefurish by Amir La'akum, that when the guy cooks up the water, you're not allowed to use that water even when it's cold. That's Mefurish. That's Mefurish. But Shlomo Zalman says not like that, right? I'm just explaining, how could it be that Shlomo Zalman say not like that? It's a Mefurish, Kemat Ramah, it's Mefurish everything. The answer is Pasha, is no shaykhis, right? Now, it's not Muchach for Shlomo Zalman's, right? But it's no shaykhis. We know Hanas Akum and Hanas Yisrael are two different sugyas. And they say, over here, the Yisr is Kodesh. Over here, the Yisr is, they asked, they didn't ask the Chefts in such a noifin. They asked the no, whatever that no is. They asked the no. Over there by Yisrael. Sorry? Come again? I'm not getting involved in B'Shach B'Shach. Let's say it's, sorry? So then you have what Rabbi Fishy is saying, that the pshat is that that's just maybe a siluk, murder of the bacteria as a removal. Maybe. Again, it's not, I just want you to know the concept, that it's not Muchach, Hanas, Yisrael, and the Sugya of Hanas Agum. I remember when we learned the Sugya of Hanas Agum, it's at the end, and then we were deciding maybe to do Hanas Yisrael at that point there. Right? And I remember that I said, but Dafka, we're not going to do it, because I don't want them to get confused with the Gedarim of Hanas Yisrael. Hanas Goyim, it's two separate Gedarim. Okay, I can't. We did everything. We should start Kaisha, no? What did we have to talk about? You're right. We didn't talk about Chashmal. We didn't talk about Chashmal. Okay, so let's talk about Chashmal. What's to talk about Chashmal? All right, so let's see what we could do over here. No, I'm saying, but then there's nothing really. Okay, and then we're done, and then we can start Kaisha, right? Right, you guys on TV, you ready? Yeah, okay, everyone's ready? We're almost about to start Kaisha, okay? And I put on the tie, so otherwise it'll be Baltashkas. Okay, so let's where do we begin? Come in. Let's say Chashmal will be mutter. Let's say it'll be mutter somehow after this last 10 shirim. Let's say, I don't know how, but let's say Chashmal after these 10 shirim is going to be mutter. Let's say. So the Chazanish already was Sagar Aleinu as Aderech. In the 38th Siman, the Chazanish, in Sivkat and Dalet, the Chazanish says, even if it's mutter, it's aser. Rare, it's a rare commodity in Paiskim in general, and that's rare in the Chazanish. He writes, even if it's, sometimes, even if it's mutter, it's aser. Even if it's mutter, it's aser. He says, why? He says, because this is a Chil Hashem. So that's it. Even if it's mutter, it's aser. So therefore, that's why, what's the point in talking about the sugya? What am I going to do? I'm going to come and explain to you what it's mutter. Even if it's mutter, it's aser. Sure. Comes again, Rabbi Zeichat Tzadik Levrachim, the 127th tshuva, and he at least gives us the Pesach to start the sugya. How are we going to start the sugya? Because Moshe says, if it's mutter, it's mutter. That's what Moshe says. He says, if it's mutter, ein b'zeh chil Hashem. That's our only heter to discuss the sugya. Okay, so then, now we can start. Moshe, Bar Pluxi is, of course, allowed to argue on the Chazanish. That's number 2. Number 3 is that, we have a lot of things, it's going to not be easy in the next 35 seconds that we talk about Chashmal. It's not going to be so easy. You know that. So, is there any way that, let's say he's going to wind up being Machmer on Chashmal. What am I going to be able to do anyways? It's not Negaya. This job is to get on the generator, right? That's already not Negaya. Okay. Obviously, if you get on the generator, you get paid back for Shabbos. That's no Shiloh. That's so, but I can't get on this Shabbos and whatever. And, first I have to explain to my wife, you're going to come up, oh, what did he say this time? First of all, he made schnitzel mezainis this week, and that's in the other kernel, sorry. And he, and this, and now the generator and whatever. And I hear that the air conditioning is. So let's see, is there anything that before we begin, let's say this Shabbos, we just, we want to make sure we get schnitzel mezainis in. So is there anything that we could anyways somehow be using electricity, So there is a sort of havamina. There's a halacha that we learned in Atmana. By Atmana we learned that let's say the food is hot. And you go and you take it and you wrap it on Shabbos be'isr in towels. But you're not allowed. You're not allowed to wrap in towels on Shabbos. So let's say you do that. So is that Ma'aseh Shabbos aser, and now the cholent is aser on Shabbos? So there's a cloud that it doesn't aser it. Why? Because it's preserving. There's no hana, All it is preventative of making it that it doesn't cool down. And we learned that klal over there. We talked about that there's no Ma'aser Shabbos on the preservation because it's no nu on no. Now, could you make a zushtel and say, okay, so the stuff that's in the fridge, whatever's in the fridge is it's just keeping it cold. Okay, it's not going to work to put things back, right? But could I keep at least the things in the fridge that are there, and we'll call that just preservation? And we'll say, look, it's cold, and it's just keeping it cold, the electricity, let's say, from the fridge. So you should know. I wouldn't have said that. I would have said it's no dimion. There, the pshat is the blanket is protecting what's there and just not allowing it to escape. Mashenke, when it comes to a fridge, I would tell you it's an influx of electricity, which is generating new cold. That's what I would have thought. But the Tzitz Eliezer, I'm just trying to show you, we might have anyways, something we could play with. The Tzitz Eliezer in the 19th volume, in the 15th tshuva over there, he brings a Har Tzvi, the first Pesach, the first Frank, the Grace of Rav Yushalayim, in the 181st tshuva. I'm quoting from the Tzitz Eliezer because I didn't look it up inside. And he says, yeah, that might also be called preservation. And therefore that also might be mutter. I'll give you another example. I don't know, you have to dine with these things, I'll give you an example. Let's say I have a fully cooked cholent as of when Shabbos came in, right? So now, and I have the fire on. The fire is being generated from evil electricity, right? There's Nimrod and his evil friend, Amraphel, and the whole chevra, right? And there they are, Kedar Loimer, the ganze chevra. And there they are. And they're all, they're all doing the electricity on Shabbos. And here you are eating your cholent, your haimish cholent, Hashem Shabbos Abeinim Abbas. How do you eat that? How do you how do you live with yourself? So what's the answer? So he said, okay, look, maybe we'll be making on Tosefes Hanoah. What is Tosefes Hanoah? Anti-Semite. This is real, this is Hanoah. What's Tosefes Hanoah? So he said, okay, the cholent was fully cooked. That's when Shabbos came in. If I can have the cholent cooked, fully cooked. So now it's going up to mitztamik v'yafaloi. Tosefes Hanoah. Well, maybe there's after Tosefes Hanoah also when it comes to Ma'aser Shabbos. And if Moshe doesn't like that, okay, but the disciple was making. So maybe that. So you got to have the cholent fully cooked. And I'm going to have lights going in the background. These are battery lights. You go out today, you tell your wife, look what I bought you. Who loves you, if not me? Right? Who loves you? And you bring home this beautiful battery light. She says, what is it? This week we're not having flowers. This is going up in tish, going on the table right there. Beautiful. Right? Beautiful. You know what she's gonna have? She's gonna say, Azama, as a husband, Baruch, what he gave me is a husband, right? Other people, they get flowers, they die by the time Sunday comes, they smell already by the end of Shabbos. My husband gives me a light and good. Okay. So there's eitzes if you want to be, this position. But Rabbi say, the air conditioning. What can we do about the air conditioning? What can we do? You can hire somebody to blow on you, and that'll be additional air. But what's coming out of his mouth is corona. And what do you? Dubby's fan on what? On a little bit. Dubby. There he is. He's got the big one over there in America. It is funny watching TV talk. Kids you can take this fan, battery operated before Shabbos, set up like 30 of them on your table. And how long did they last for, Dubby? How long did they last for? Now they know I need them and I have to look at what they're going to. 4 hours? Oh my goodness. 4 minutes. 40 minutes. 40 minutes? More? 40 hours? 40? What? These fans last for 40 hours? It's a shtickle eitzah. No? So you're going to get all these little fans. You're going to have them all over there. So your wife, that's today's present. Tomorrow, Erev Shabbos, you come up and you say, look what I have. Come into the house, you have a big, massive fan. You start plugging it in over here and over there and all these fans all over the house. What? No, on Erev Shabbos. No, you charge it. You have to charge it. Erev Shabbos, right? Don't cause trouble. Okay. Buzz? Does it make it cold? No. It was not a riot because we have the AC blowing. Dovey, it makes it cold? Oh, Dovey's not a riot. It's not a makes it cold. A refrigerator doesn't make it cold for this fellow. Buzz? Sorry? Oh, of course not. We'll get there. Everything's. So, okay. So what do we do? So listen, you go to Reb Moshe. Mistama Reb Moshe will be makel for us now. Mistama. Okay, we know this, as far as like Tina Chinishpa and maybe Chazal wearing geyser on these characters, shaygigs and things like that, The problem is enough from people have gone down to the extra company to talk to them that they know what's going on already, But okay, so going Rav Moshe, where's Rav Moshe? Moshe has a few tshuvas about this. I didn't even write down where. The one in Kuf Chav Zayin I just mentioned. Moshe has a few tshuvas. Buzz? So that is a few. It's like 3 tshuvas. Yitzchak brought in the Mamakavs. 3 tshuvas. Rav Moshe says, you should know the Fruma Oilam uses it. Rav Moshe wrote this 50 years ago. You should know, maybe more, 50, 60. Rav Moshe says, you should know the Fruma Oilam uses it. He says, no, I'll tell you why they use it. And you could be saimich on this. Rav Moshe is saying, if you have what I'm about to say, you could be saimich on this. He says, look, what's the issue over here? Ma'aseh Shabbos, they're going and putting it in. He says, first of all, I'm told that the people that are doing it are goyim. Okay, so I goyim doing for Yisrael. Okay, but you realize it's only in Issa D'Rabbanan, we're dealing out derisas. Okay, but goyim for Yisrael is a problem. But it'll at least be a svara that we're not dealing anymore with a shayla of derisas, Okay, and then he says, and I'm told that really they're not doing anything. It's just things break and they fix them when they break. But who says we have to assume something broke? That's number 2. And number 3, Moshe says that b'chlal, there's pekuach nefesh, hospitals are attached, and et cetera, et cetera. So Moshe says, yesh l'smoich, and he says you don't have to be machmir. He writes over there something about a wife if it's too difficult for her and whatever. In those days, Nishkeven can fancy lights in the table, and Nishkeven can dos, with the fancy fans and everything. So he says, you could be saimich. That's Moshe. No, the Maisa, is that the Metzias? That, beyond the shadow of a doubt, is absolutely not the Metzias. Nobody in the year 2020 argues. That's not the Metzias. Metzias is the ones that are doing the work, Jews, no shayla. As a matter of fact, it's almost illegal to allow, the person has to be a citizen. All right. And if your last name is Yasir and you're married to a girl named Fatima, it's not so easy to have security checks and things like that. I mean, when you teach your children to blow up Jews, not so simple, right? To let them work with fire and whatever. So it's the overwhelming majority roiv of the people that are working there, and even the fellows that are driving the tractors are Jews. That's fact number 1, no question. Fact number 2, is it only that they're doing things when things break? It's not the reality. Again, this is not a kash on Rav Moshe. Maybe 50, 60 years ago it was. Maybe they were lying. Maybe this. Who cares? But this is the Metzias in the year 2020. There are tractors that are being driven throughout Shabbos. There's a specific amount of electricity being generated by the coals that are being shoveled by those tractors, and those coals are being burnt and made into electricity, etc. And there's a specific amount that they're using, and they're mitzamtzim in that amount. And it's not the pshat that there's some machine that's going and this machine breaks sometimes and then they fix it. It's a constant, without any question, without a shadow of a doubt, that it's a constant. When they need, to feed the amount they need, they supply. When they don't need, they don't supply. Need, supply, need, supply. Okay, number 2. Number 3, every hospital in Eretz Yisrael legally has to be on its own private generator. So the hospital's far is over. It's not even a man the Amr B'chlam. It has to have its own switchboard. It can't be connected. I don't mean generator, what you call yeshiva generator with payas and astronomy. I mean, they have their own, they're connected to the electric company on their own, what? Sorry? All week, all year, all everything. No question. LMI in buildings and whatnot. So how many buildings are connected? So you say, there could be somebody on a life support machine, 3 houses down and this down. Okay. So the Maisa, this is another mitzvah you have to know. Every 3 buildings have their own, I will call it grid, for lack of a better word, but every 3 buildings have their own, they're their own family, which means that, could you just blindly close your eyes? It sounds very strange to blindly close your eyes and assuming within these 3 buildings that there's somebody on a life support machine. It's okay. Before we even get to it, doesn't really matter. That's far, before if it even exists, it might not help us. But let's, and let's say that's the case. So you shouldn't have, we're dealing with a very serious thing here. If you're allowing them to make electricity, if you forget our Sugya Ma'aseh Shabbos, by you turning on the light, you're saying, can you please supply me with more electricity? That's the words you just said when you pressed the light on before Shabbos. Right before Shabbos, you press the light and he said, could you give me more electricity? Because on Shabbos, that's what he's being told to do. So he does it. So you're over on Livnei Iver. Forget Ma'aseh Shabbos a minute. Ma'aseh Shabbos is a Shal D'Rabbanan. There's a Shal D'Oraisa, right? So are you allowed to turn on the light before Shabbos? And more so. So you're going to say, yeah, but they have to make the electricity because maybe in those 3 buildings. So first of all, you should have to find out. But second of all, that something still doesn't sound right. If somebody's fishing for a Kallus sheyesh by sakana, and he has a right to go and fish, right? So just think about, am I allowed to start, pushing fish toward his net so that more fish should come up into the net, and then he's doing a ma'aseh heter and then eat the fish. And that's not even a good sushtal. You know why? Because you're not even doing that. You're making him put in another net for you. Again, from the Mishalim, it'll give you a little bit of a feel of what's going on over here. Right? You're basically giving this person another net. Something doesn't sound right over here. It doesn't sound right. It certainly sounds like Lifnei Hebrew. It doesn't sound very good. Right? So this is another issue, is that technically, this is a complicated word, turbines and all types of other, protons and croutons. But basically, they do have a system that theoretically could be running on its own. Could be, but they are constantly changing and constantly seeing, if you the supply, the demand, the supply, that's what they're constantly doing, right? I'm going to ask you an interesting question. They on Shabbos, on every single Shabbos, they have, let's say, a huge turbine going, and then they turn it into a smaller turbine when they realize they don't need as much input of giving out electricity, etc. Just a mashal. No. So let me ask you a question. Interesting thing to think about. What happens on Shabbos? Listen to this. Interesting Shabbos. Let's say they're allowed right now to go turn on that new turbine. Why? Because in one of these buildings there's a pikuach nefesh. Okay, and then Mamela, it's supplying electricity for everybody, and everybody's benefiting from that electricity. Let's say. Let's ask an interesting question. Let's think like this. Let's say I walk into a chayla sheyesh b'sakana, and that chayla sheyesh b'sakana needs hot water. I want you to think about these things. That chayla sheyesh b'sakana needs hot water. I go over to that hot water, and he needs it. He's pikuach nefesh. He must have hot water. And I go over to that hot water, and I spill it out. And so then he says to me, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I need hot water. I'm a chayla sheyesh b'sakana." He says, and you go and cook up the water again. And you knew you were going to do this. Were you ever in a chiyuv chatis by cooking up the second water? Don't think so, no? Don't think so. I wouldn't make a shidduch with this person. And if we had to give him something in shul, we would give him the guy who gives the stuff to the Galila guy. But was he ever in a chiyuv chatis? Was he ever in a chatis? It doesn't sound right, no? He's a Russian Marusha, It doesn't sound like, to a certain extent, maybe that's what's going on over here, at least with the turbines, They right now they had some system in play that might have worked. They turn off that system. And now, after they turn off that system, so what do? They turn on a new system. Now, technically, that system would have been, now the second they turn off the system, the Pikuach Nefesh says they have to turn on the new system, right? So maybe. The only thing is, over here, it's not exactly like that. When I looked into it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's not exactly like that. It's like this. What happens if I have hot water that's cooked up, okay? Then I cook up another pot of hot water. Pot of hot water, and then I spill out the first pot of hot water. They don't turn off. You can't turn off the whole Eretz Yisrael. First, they turn on the other one, the mashal. I'm just giving you dugmayas of what goes on. They turn on the next one, then they turn off the first one. Now, what about that? I know for sure I'm about to turn off the hot water. I know for sure. I'm just not doing it yet. So then I know for sure I need this hot water in order to save this person's life. Were you ever in a chiyuv chatis? You know who talks about that? The Marsham. Marsham was the Das Torah, a most wonderful Jew that he was. He says, what happens if you cut down a groigris and then you cut down a second groigris? You cut down a groigris because you gave him for pikuach nefesh. And then you say that, I'm going to cut down the second groigris, and that's the one that we're going to feed him to eat with. When I cut down the first one, I planned on giving him the first one. And then I say, no, I don't want to give him the first one. I'm going to cut down the second, but the second one is the one he's going to eat. He has a thought that might not be a chiyuv chatis. But you know what? The plot thickens. It gets worse. The case like this. What happens if I cook hot water, the isser, in order to make myself a tea for no good reason at all? And then I say, that's terrible. Now I go out and I start knocking on doors. Does anybody have a pikuach nefesh? Anybody got a pikuach nefesh? And now I give them the tea for their pikuach nefesh. That's already pretty gefährlich, no? I don't think anybody can say that's connected to the pikuach nefesh, no? That's pretty gefährlich. Right? I don't think even the goyim would make a shidduch with that dude. No, that's pretty gefährlich. I mean, your mama's, that's pretty gefährlich. That's pretty gefährlich. So that's what they're doing, right? They're doing it for pikuach nefesh. I think sounds a little bit, Buzz? Just one moment. I have to. I'll answer after, but it's a taka because we started late today. I'll answer you after. I'm sorry. That sounds pretty gefährlich, right? So we're turning on a turbine. There's an Imrit Bina by this about Hilchos Yontif. The Imrit Bina talks about that I cook on Yontif for a guy. If you cook on Yontif for a guy, and then the guy, after you cook on Yontif for the guy, so then you're not allowed to cook on Yontif, obviously, for a guy. That's an Isser Gomer. It's only Lachem. So now I go and I eat the food. Did I matter the Isser L'mafreya? It's not so. Shach talks about it, kind of. Yeah, there's a lot of raid with this. I don't know. This is what's going on. I don't know. So that would be Tosefes no, maybe. Maybe you have that out there, Tosefes no. But we want air conditioning. And don't forget, you can't read them by the light because unless you're going to sit right next to the candles, it's got to be Tosefes no. If you're reading on the couch, I don't know. These are all new news. I don't know. What should we do? I don't know. Doesn't sound very good. I don't know. It doesn't sound very good, no? What? You're turning on the light, and I told you they're giving an exact amount for the electricity you need. That stuff is changing literally every hour. I don't know. I did warn you guys not to come today. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds pretty bad, right? Sorry? I'm sorry? They hate God. They're not religious. They don't care. Who cares? Right now they're doing a Ma'aseh Shabbos. It's not like Amir Al-Akam's far as they're doing right now. That's very schwer. It's a very schwer city. They're mamish doing Hilchos Shabbos on Shabbos for you. So now we have to get involved. So what are the Aterim over here? Do we have any Aterim? What do we have here? Tinek Shnishba we have. What else do we have? Maybe the Tinek Shnishba, but Tinek Shnishba Shaygig on Shabbos Makim Tzarech. If I don't have my air conditioning, I get grumpy. Okay? But to go and set this up, it's like a shtickle lifnei heaver, no? Like a very, Ma'aseh Shabbos maybe is the least of our problems. I don't know. What about I don't know. Ramat Shlomo, where I live, right? My neighbors are Yasir and his wife, who's probably a sister also, Fatima, right? Those are my neighbors. They're of course. If my whole area, you could hear a svara that there is a klalistic svara. If the entire area would be blackout or something like that. Sorry? No. I don't have, my neighbors are not mamish that. I mean, across the valley are the bad guys. What? Who cares? The Israel's still doing it. Who cares? The Israel's still doing it. It doesn't matter. It's only by Mir Akam that those fars make a difference. But here we're in Amir Yisrael. We're in Anas Yisrael. But Rabbi's like, what would happen, Chalila, there's a blackout in Ramat Shlomo? That's very dangerous, right? Because the bad guys, they can see from across. So there are svaras that we have to have electricity and that they have to, in general, it's a security risk that there shouldn't be electricity going in Eretz Yisrael. I agree with that, but that doesn't help me to, first of all, if my neighbors are new using electricity, so then Sakana Zafashis is das nicht, right? What gives me a right to? I don't know. Or maybe you'll say, yeah, no, it's very fair. I don't know. I don't know. Rama. They take the coal, like they're putting in the matzahs into the oven, right? Verstehst? Right? Koyin, Levi, Yisrael, this one is a Shoimer, this is a Shabbos, this is a Ben, this is a Bas. Was? Pretty gefährlich, man. All right, let's start Kaisha. Hey, Melsa. I brought the tie, though. No? What time is it? Oh, you can go. Well, we didn't do anything today. I know, and we have to say Musar also. It's Thursday. Wait, so what's the Maisa? What's the Maisa? Could you use the, what? What's the Maisa? Well, I guess, could you learn a Sefer? You're going to get into the mitzvahs of the Henderson, but what about Siyata D'Shmaya? That's right. And what do I get? I get shilas from all the American Yingalai. This is a mitzvah to live arts, right? But I keep 2 days. You know, I mean, it's not to get me, right? It's not. It's only for the man Israeli girl. Maybe it's different. Right? I don't know, right? How does this work? My wife, she made the aliyah. So, was? Kapanim. I don't know. Schwer. I just want you to know one thing. You ask a lot of the American Rabbanim, and they tell you Yungaman before he goes to Eretz Yisrael. I know this because I asked an American rabbi before I came to Eretz Yisrael. Somebody told me something about Chashmal and whatever. I don't know. Moshe was Mekel. By me, Ramosha, you know the order. God, Ramosha. You know by me what Ramosha is. But Ramosha over there, he's saying up there, no, not me. I have nothing to do with this. Because the Metzias of Ramosha is no shaykhus. He wrote a tshuva about something which has nothing to do with the year 2020. And God didn't have anything to do with the year 2000. And God probably didn't have anything to do with the time of Ramosha. But this is Ramosha writes it first. This is what they tell me. That's what Ramosha says. Sorry? It's the same idea. I'm saying, but even Klali, Ramosha is talking. But even Klali, Ramosha is not as bothered by the whole Isser, because he says, maybe, who says there's an Isser and therefore it's a suffix and whatever. I don't know. What bothers me the most is the Lifnei Iver. The Ma'aseh Shabbos will make them into Tinach Shenishbas. Okay, even if I do believe this, I don't believe this, but let's make them into Tinach Shenishba, and we'll just make it Shaygeg and Shalom Yisrael, and you're allowed to use it on Shabbos. Okay, it's a Tayyach, I don't know, like that. What? I'm sorry? Why? Why is the water machine working electricity? Where is it? That's I don't want the meter. It's also not in the meter. Yeah? The meter is not for me. What? What you just said is that when you flush the toilet, you're on electricity. I mean, new chumra. Okay. Erste Sache is we have a light. Second of all, the fan. Third of all, the toilet. Yeah. Was sagst du? Yeah. Yeah. Mamela. Yeah. What's the grandma? There's a mice of your day mamish. They take the coals, they put it in with the machine. What does that do with gas? I'm not talking about gas. You want to know what's the din of electricity made by gas? It's a mice of your day mamish. They're opening the valve which puts it in. It's like turning on a light. What happens if you turn on a light? It's like a whole system that goes here and there and there and there and there. Happens very fast, and that's a mice of your day. What is a mice of your day? Akapanim. Rabbi say, until further notice, just don't use electricity on Shabbos. What's the make such a big deal? Huh? How you allowed to go to shul? The shul's not on a generator? Huh? Really? Orthodox shuls are the ones where the goyim daven. Huh? Orthodox shuls that aren't on a generator? Really? I guess you'll say mitzvahs lav lehenes no, and that no, but the davening, see davening from a light. Yeah, okay, but that's not. It's a mitzvahs lav lehenes. You have Ramosha. You have mitzvahs lav lehenes no. No. Kiddush. How are you allowed to eat at the Kiddush? When's the Kiddush? The Kiddush is during the daytime. You don't need light. Hot kegel, maybe hot kegel. Maybe it's like a tesefes. No, I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just like that. It's tzaddik in the mikveh, yeah? You're tzaddik in the mikveh. Wait, so Danny, do I have time to say Musar, or you guys are going to leave me? I think Danny's going to let us say Musar. Musar is very important. Okay. Rabbi say, in the meantime, what came out? In the meantime, don't use electricity on Shabbos. And what's the big deal? What's the big deal now? Hey. What's the big deal? What? Sorry? Manila? No. Go to Ashdod, and you'll see what's going on over there. They used to have time. They used to let younger light in. Now they don't let younger light in anymore. Started telling everybody not to use the electricity on Shabbos. Right? Okay. Halavai. Akapanim. The viola, it's a very serious problem. You have to do these eights, or you get a generator, or what else do you do? I don't know. I guess if he's from Yid, he probably doesn't use electricity, no? I ate by Nissen Karelitz when I was, my wife went with the seminary to Bnei Brak. So I knocked on the door of all the Gedolim and I said, I don't have a meal. I'm with 130 girls. I need a place to eat, right? So Chaim Kanievsky, the Gabba told me I can't eat. So I went to ask Rabbi Kanievsky. So she said, of course, he has no place to eat. So I ate by Chaim, right? This is in the olden days when you were able to get in. And then, but Friday night, so I went over to Reb Nissen, and I said to him, I don't have a place to eat. I'm with my wife in the seminary. Said, you have to eat by me. You have to eat by me. So I ate by Reb Nissen. And Taka, as I was walking out of shul, he held my arm. We walked down the stairs and he pointed up over there. And there was an apartment building that had light. I said the story a few times. He had a light. There was a light. I'll never forget it. He looked at the light. He pointed. He stopped me. And he said, Sayid was come from America, yeah? I said, yeah. Herzchaim, over there's a light. Over there's light. Don't be choish them. Mistama, they have a generator. I said, oh, it's a good thing the Rebbe's telling me. I was mamish choishin. No, by them, it's mamish like, no, he told me, don't be choish them. There's mistama, have a generator. It was the darkest meal that I ever ate in my life. I asked him in the middle of the meal, why for it? Don't we have like, they could have generator. So he said that he has a Kabbalah from the Stipler. Stipler's his uncle, and I think also from his the Chazanish. I don't remember. I remember him saying the word Stipler, but I think he also maybe said the Chazanish, that they don't even use generators. And by Rabbi Kanievsky and by Rabbi Nissen Krelitz, they don't even use generators because they have to show people that Epis is shaykh to Leben Taka without electricity on Shabbos. So Taka, and by him, he lived a 95-year life without electricity on Shabbos. What? What do you mean in Bnei Brak? Oh, he lived in Bnei Brak. Yeah, in Bnei Brak, it's very hot. Very hot. It's so hot in Bnei Brak, it's mamish. It's like Africa hot sometimes. It's like really hot there. And he's able to, so what should I tell you? I don't know. No, what should I tell you? Okay, so we're going to arrange afterward like a group communal buyings of all these Zachen and stuff, right? We'll talk after. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, but say let me gain over here. Let's talk some parsha. So what's going to be with kosher? So you better start. Rabbi said you all better start. All right. So I welcome all of my Torah listeners from Torah Anytime to Shalayim Yer Kodesh. Once again, a new location, new base medrash. So in this week's parsha, in Parsha Kisavai, you have the various Kallus. And the brachas. You have to start obviously with the brachas. You have the Kallus, you have the brachas, and that's what really Parsha Kisavai is all about. It's known for its 98 Kallus. And the truth is that, in these brachas, Selik the Sach. Chazal tell us when you hear the bracha, V'anu kol ha'am, amen. When you're going to see these brachas, you're going to say amen. And taka, then these brachas are chal. And when you lane this parsha, you have to lane the parsha and listen. Sometimes we just group the whole klallas together and they're all just one big klalla and whatever. We're not really listening because he's very low anyways. And, and you have to listen to the klallas and you have to listen to the brachas and you have to understand what's being told to you, Rabbi. You have to understand. The Tzemach Tzedek, he was the Einikel of the Balatanya. And he said I think they say about the Tzemach Tzedek, his Zayda, the Balatanya, was a Bal Koirei. And he was the spectacular Bal Koirei. And not only was he a spectacular Bal Koirei, but he would lane it like the Balatanya, with the whole lave of the Balatanya. What's meant us the lave of the Balatanya? When he would lane Bracious, you would feel like you're with the Ovis. You have an understanding of the Ovis, of the Shpizin. When he would lane Yetzias Mitzrayim, you felt like you were leaving Yetzias Mitzrayim. And his Einikel said, when he would lane the Korbanis, the oilam was uplifted as if they were being makrav Korbanis, the Helik Balatanya. And he said that when his Zayda was nifter, the Balatanya, so it came time for the B'chukaisai, or maybe even our Parsha Kisavai, and it was with all the Klallas. And then in the middle of the laning, without realizing, he just started the tears started pouring down his cheeks, and he was crying, and he was nervous, and he couldn't understand what was going on. And then he was mamish uncontrollably crying. So yes, his father, I think he was an Einikel of the Balatanya. Yes, his father, what happened to me today during the Klallis? What happened? I can't even explain it. He said, because all the years when the Balatanya laned the Klallis, he laned it with the emes kavanas that all the Klallis are really badekt They're only covering up all the brachas. And the Baal Tanya with this Helikai, with the Helikai Oigentaka, the Baal Tanya, he was able to lay in the Kallus and to unleash what was really Tamin inside them, which were brachas. And a lot of the Svarim are filled with this, and they'll pick up bullets a lot. So today, when the person, the Baal Koirei lane, he doesn't have the Koyach of the Zayda, he doesn't have the ability. So all you were hearing was the Kallus. And that's Taka, an important limit to understand what is going on in these Kallus. You have to learn these Kallus and understand these Kallus. Savada, you also have to listen clearly to the underlying message of these Kallus, which is a bracha. And one of them, which I'll just, to go into one of these Kallus that the pasuk talks about. The pasuk says, Yakeka Hashem b'shchin ra, asher lo yisucha lirape. In Perek Chavches, the pasuk Lamed Hey. So it says that Hakadosh Baruch Hu will send shchin chas v'shalom that you won't be able to get a refuah from. They'll send a shchin that you'll never, a type of a machla that you won't be able to have a cure from this machla. So I saw over here, I brought here a hesped that it's a great Jew from the last door. His name was Yoina Yosef Ehrentreu. It's a hesped, he was a great Bal Musar, and he said a hesped on a young lady that was nifteris from Yena Machla. He said a hesped on her. And in this hesped, he explains a phenomenon that was unfortunately taking place in their time, which Lida, in our time, we can appreciate, but we could understand even more. He said that you see this phenomenon that there's a lot of Nebuch young people that are dying of Yana Machla. That's what he was talking about there. He said, and this young lady that was Nifteris, so the doctor told her 2 months ago, you have 2 months to live. And that is really, there's no way to, you have 2 months to live. You have 2 months to live. And that zog, that unfortunate zog is not new. We're hearing that more and more. That zog of, you only have 2 months to live. Kilu amachla beli refuah. So he said, we have to understand, he said at the hesped, we have to understand what is it when a Hakadosh Baruch Hu is sending us a machla, beli refuah, what's the message? And that's really this klala. Hashem will send chas v'chalila, Rachman al-Tzlan, a machla without a refuah. What's the zog when Hashem is telling us, I'm sending you a machla without a refuah? So he went on to explain that we make a mistake. And I have the hesped here. It's a very interesting hesped if anybody wants to see it. He goes on to explain that we make a mistake. We live in a world and we think that the norm of the world, the metzias of Teva of the world, like it rains and it snows and there's heat and there's cold. And so there's health and they're sick. And that's normal. It's normal that there should be sickness in the world. That's a normal thing. It's a mamela. When somebody gets sick, we understand that it's Teva. It's a normal thing. Fakir, Lasid Lavai, when everybody will be misrape, that's a big nace. And we live in a world that we think that there's wild animals and that's normal, and therefore Lasid Lavai, when it says in Yeshaya in Pasuk Perek Aleph that Lasid Lavai, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to make a metzias with the zev and the number and all the animals, they're going to live in harmony. We think that's nice. So he said that's a mistake. He brings the Gemara Brachas and Daf Lamed Gimel. The Gemara Brachas Lamed Gimel says the Kia Orid Meimis. The Orid is what kills. The poison is what kills. The Chait is Meimis. Is it the animals that are in ban in Perek Chavav and Parshas B'chukoisai Taka? Your ban says, what is it? You think that the animals, Lasid Lavai, that's the norm. The norm is that animals should live in harmony. Just what? Because of our chait, it's goyrim that the animals don't live in harmony, and that's why there's wild animals. That's why there's such a metzias. Some it goes on the looters also, but it's because of our chait, and that's the metzias also, Taka, that the norm and the teva in the world is to be healthy. That's the norm, and that's the teva. Where does it come from? Sickness. Chait. That's not the abnorm. That's not the Asid Lavai. In the Asid Lavai, Taka Klal Yisrael will have done tshuva. So Mela of Klal Yisrael does tshuva. So Mela, the chait goes away, and once the chait goes away, so then I say the siba for the machla goes away. And Taka, that's the pshat. It says by Chizkiyahu, Taka got sick. He's compelled with the tefillah 15 more years because that's normal. Asa, there was a tain on Asa. He went to a doctor. I'll say there was a big taina. Why are you going to a doctor? What's the pshat? Because when you're mamish a big tzaddik, so then by you there's nothing but the chait has to be taken care of. By you there's no medicine. The only medicine is tshuva, nothing else. Somebody who's not on that level of madrega, so he has the medicine of ishtadlis. How do you make medicine work? Torah u'maisim toivim, tshuva Torah maisim toivim. That's how you make medicine work. Medicine is not the answer to sickness. Medicine is not how sickness is taken care of. The way sickness is taken care of is by doing tshuva. Oh, thank you so much. Is by doing tshuva and maisim tovim. That's how it gets taken care of. Medicine is not something that takes care of sickness. And so what happens? What happens, and he writes over here, therefore, when a person gets a machala, we must never forget, al lanu l'shkoyach, hatshuva mitis hiat v'atshuva. Because that's the norm. Why is it that a person has sickness? It's only because of chait and nothing else. So Mela, what does Hashem do? What does Hashem do? So Hashem says, every person does chait.